very good. And you're still on. Bye, Mitch. See you later. All right. Well, hi, Scott. How are you doing today? It's nice to have you join for lunch again this week.
I am doing great, Kayleen. It's so good to see you again. It's been too long. It's been several weeks with the holidays and everything, but just, yeah, excited to jump back into this.
Yeah, no, this is very exciting. And, going live normally on Tuesdays for us is a nice treat because when we get to catch up with friends and hang out. And hey, Mitch, I can still see you too. So it's nice, hanging out with a bunch of different friends. But normally while we're waiting for folks to join us on our live stream, I geek out about a tool. And Scott, while we were on break, I worked on a project where I built some gigantic faux beams, like 20 feet in length. They were huge. And I used one of my favorite tools. And let's see, I'm going to show you what it is. I'm not sure if you're familiar or have seen these before. They are not fancy earrings. This is a spring clamp. And this is, you can never have enough clamps, first of all, ever. This goes on mitered corners, and it's sort of like a spring, and you can clamp it together, and it has a nice tight 45 angle. So this is my geek out tool of the week.
Nice.
So Scott, while we're figuring out our technical difficulties, can you tell me, how have you been? Happy New Year. How was the start of the new year for you?
Thank you. I am doing great, Kayleen. Just, looking forward to 2021. I mean, obviously things are still a little bit crazy right now in our world, but really enjoying these opportunities to get together with some of our friends. Scott Stump today, can't wait to hear what he has to say. But I wanted to share just some housekeeping really quickly. We're going to do things just a little bit different in 2021. We're going to try a seasonal approach to our Facebook Live events, where we are going to do 7 or so sessions, and then we're going to take a couple or few weeks off and then jump back into our sessions. We're just going to try that approach and see how it works. But wanted to make everybody aware of that. And we do have a theme here in the first season, and we're focused on work-based learning and career and technical education in our schools. So excited about that. But there's just so much going on. The other thing I wanted to share with you, we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. You have visited the Biltmore before, right? You said you've been there, right?
Yes, I actually went out and I went for one tour and ended up staying 2 days to take all the tours and geek out.
Yeah, so I went up there over my break. I was able to, Atlanta and Asheville are maybe 3 hours apart. It's not very far. So I drove up to Asheville, North Carolina, and I got to see the Biltmore for the first time. And the reason I want to bring it into this conversation is one thing that grabbed me was the actual people who built that house. While I was up there, I grabbed 3 different books from the bookstore, and I've been reading all about the Biltmore since I was there. And one of the things I've learned is that there were over 1,000 craft workers on the Biltmore project, right? And so, yeah. And I was reading too, apparently there was a shortage of craft workers even back then. They had to bring in stonemasons and electricians and cabinet makers from New York and Ohio in order to build this house in Asheville, North Carolina. So I thought that was really interesting. And just it's really a large piece of art, when you look at it, the way that it's built, the way it's put together, it's obviously just a big art project built by artists, from all over the country. And so there were just, I'm really focusing on the construction of the Biltmore because I think that's fascinating. And I know that you spent some time there as well, but I'm excited about it and just looking forward to learning as much as I can and sharing it with you.
I love it. It's so fun when other friends are introduced to these amazing historic properties. And the Biltmore is astounding for a lot of different reasons. He really also had his own trade school and program there. But for folks who aren't aware too, the Biltmore has this beautiful, almost floating staircase. The woodworking is off the charts. It's one of the coolest projects I've ever seen and been able to walk around. So I'm excited that you're excited. I'm jealous that you're close enough to go check it out and see it often because, the grounds, I'm sure, are fantastic throughout the seasons as well. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's great too. It is a tie-in. And interesting that you brought up that there has been sort of a shortage of workers this has been an ongoing issue, and taking a moment to tackle and look at online options, especially in the age of COVID. How are we getting creative in maintaining the workforce that we have, and then also kind of really pumping folks up and letting them know how cool it is. So it all ties together. I mean, our students right now are going to work on the future Biltmores, so it's pretty fun stuff.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's what we do, right? That's what we do at SEFCA. And I wanted, before we bring in our guest, I wanted to share some new language that we've developed to describe SEFCA, right? We have a new year, so we have some new language that I wanted to share with you to kind of try out and see what you think. But I'm going to call it up here on my screen. So just so people know, if this is your first time tuning in, I wanted to tell you a little bit about SEFCA. First of all, I'm Scott Sheeler. I'm the president and CEO of SEFCA, but just so you know, we place people of all ages and backgrounds into good paying construction jobs in as little as 20 days. The reality, Kayleen, is that some people have a hard time finding a great job, which is why we believe more people should consider a career in construction. Construction allows anybody to get a great job in a matter of weeks without having to go to college for 4 years and get into crazy amounts of student loan debt. So at SEFCA, we help people of all ages and backgrounds land one of these great paying entry-level construction jobs in as little as 20 days. So I wanted to share that as we kick off 2021, and we're just excited to be back with you and looking forward to hearing from Scott Stump this morning, and just looking forward to coming back on with you after we speak with him.
Excellent. No, it is fantastic because it is the Construction Education Foundation of Georgia. I'm based in Colorado, and so I see the value of this nationally, but the opportunities that you provide for folks in Atlanta are off the charts. I'm jealous. I really think it's an amazing way to keep people employed with a great pathway that has a lot of longevity to it. We're trying to find, I think, sometimes the right way to say it, but it's excellent. And I'm very happy to be back geeking out, especially with you, Scott. And then also this week with our guest, Scott. And so Scott Stump is joining us this week. And thank you so much, Scott Sheeler, for joining us. And I will see you at the end of our chat to kind of catch up. So Scott, thank you. Scott Stump, thank you so much for joining us. You are with the Department of Education, Career, Technical, and Adult Education. And I am thrilled to have you on today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
I had the opportunity to see you at the ACTE conference and was really excited about some of the messaging that you had, as far as resources and opportunities. But before I get to that, I kind of want to, let's talk about, also your role and your position right now. So as the Assistant Secretary of Career and Technical Education,
It's a mouthful.
Can you explain?
It really is a mouthful.
It is. It sure is. Sometimes we have so many letters. It's nice for our viewers to understand what we're talking about, but it is an alphabet soup.
You bet. So my office, we provide the federal funding streams, which equates to about $2 billion, out to all of the career and technical education programs, both at the high school and the post-secondary level, all of the adult education programs that serve anyone past the age of 16 that's missing a math or a math or a language arts ability or acquiring the English language. And all of those activities are focused on getting them onto a career path and hopefully skills that will set them up for success.
That is excellent. And you have such a wonderful role, but you also have a background in teaching. And so you are aware of seeing both sides. So, providing resources, yes, but COVID has kind of changed stuff around a lot, and I think kind of in a good way. I have the opportunity to chat with you, to extend this message to our viewers, where before this might not have been the opportunity. So what is the Department of Education doing to support teachers? And what are some of the innovative programs you've seen kind of pop up out of this?
Oh, great. Thank you for that question, Kayleen. Before I answer it, I do want to, before I forget, just give a quick shout out, especially as we're talking to mainly Georgia, to my good friend, Michael Koenig, who's with Holder Construction and been a tremendous advocate for career and technical education over the past 2.5 years as we've implemented Perkins. He came alongside us to say, hey, let's make sure that the construction industry is represented in forefront as states implement Perkins 5. But in today's setting, you're right. I started my classroom teaching experience back in 1990, and as more recently, a local school board member, keenly aware of the difficult decisions that school districts across the nation and higher ed institutions, our community colleges and technical colleges, are having to make. And we during the midst of the fall, it was probably about 50%, 40% of students were vacillating back and forth between virtual and in-person instruction. And it's tough to do the framing of a wall or to wire a three-way switch in the midst of a virtual environment. And so we're particularly concerned about our current tech programs being able to get students back into the labs to be able to learn. So first and foremost, we were right in the midst of state plans coming in and states wondering how can we fund things when we don't know if a local program will be approved. Well, we made sure that we gave states and locals the flexibility to keep those funds flowing through the process. And then in addition to that, it provided additional responses to frequently asked questions to ensure that students can and will continue to learn. In addition to that, I've been blessed in my position to see some great examples. Westminster, Colorado, they have both construction, welding, they've got culinary and agriculture. They were intentional. They've been back in school since August 20th. And yes, they've had their moments. They went to an AM and a PM cohort to kind of separate out groups, but they really revised their curriculum to package it in what could be delivered in the theory-wise. Because even in construction, there are things that you can learn from reading about it, from memorizing it, from really digging in and having conversations about the theory. They packaged all of that in a way that they could easily transition. Even the prepping for the OSHA 10 test can be done online, and that's what they did in Arizona. And then really protecting that valuable lab time so that when they were in person, they could set all that other stuff aside and the students could be ready to get into the true hands-on skill development as they work forward. The other one that I'm just so pleased that we did a virtual visit with Gateway Technical College in Wisconsin. And, their instructors were really good and creative. They set up rotational schedules for smaller numbers to come into the lab for the welding program. In the auto arena, they worked with employers to actually do the certification of competencies in the workplace versus having to do them in the school lab, because the employers were really open and willing to have those students in those environments. All of those examples can be found at a department's website. It's OESE Back to School Success Stories and more. So if you're looking for places of schools that are taking great strides in this space, I would encourage you to take a look at the Back to School Success Stories.
That is absolutely incredible. I love hearing folks getting creative. And you're right. You can't teach gravity through a computer or how it works. You have to swing a hammer in person to understand how it works. However,
you have to hit your thumb for the first time to truly know why you don't want to hit it again.
Yes, exactly. I appreciate having not black fingertips right now. But there is a lot of theory. And why do we build? And actually, I think sometimes that's lost and students don't get the opportunity to understand why. And, for me, I use the example of math is gorgeous. It's such a beautiful language. And when you started to frame, or when I started to learn and understand why it was 16 on center or a particular number, and then you see how a sheet of drywall fits perfectly with that, and all these pieces come together, it's such fantastic fun. And so having the creativity right now for teachers is really, really valuable. I guess I'm just excited about the industry. I get excited for creating anything. And for me, it's very easy to get excited about it, but I do understand how teachers are having a hard time keeping up the enthusiasm and then also encouraging students to consider this. We're blocked in, it's not as a dynamic situation as before. So how can teachers recruit students for next year and then also in the future?
Yeah, great question. And I know one of the other parts to that is keeping them connected to authentic experiences in the workplace. And I would just note that when it comes to work-based learning, we've got 26 states that have selected that as their quality indicator, which should be very beneficial for the construction industry because it gives opportunities for young people. And I know there are limitations, and we're working with the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division to really clarify those. But I have a big concern because we're at the lowest point in U.S. history of high school students having any kind of work experience. Only about 1 in 3 today. So only 1 in 3 have a work experience while school is going on or even during the summer. and think about raising a generation that has not been connected to those cool experiences and exciting careers that are available in construction. And that's why the site that you see on the screen, Find Something New, was launched last summer as a part of the National Council for the American Worker, as well as the American Worker Public Advisory Board that was stood up. And it was really led by corporate America. So, IBM, Siemens, Northrop Grumman, all of those groups and Apple came together to say, we need a different way to connect Americans. Number one, to value skills differently. And if I can have Mitch just scroll down that screen a little bit, I think you'll be excited to see that the very first one that comes up on the careers that are listed and shown as far as finding your next careers is construction. Right off the bat, we're getting individuals interested in everything from electricians to plumbing to carpentry, all of the different professions that your members are looking for to get them excited about it. In addition to that, some local things that are happening. If you get a chance to check out Tallahassee Community College in Florida, their president and community started a Be Essential campaign that really lays out short-term certificates in this industry, in healthcare, in those areas where individuals can immediately step into what they've historically thought are dead-end jobs, but are actually high-paying paths to careers.
Oh, tremendous. So what a wonderful resource for folks to go to. And we'll put this information in the chat box as well. But it is so valuable to, okay, first of all, it's a lot of jobs are starter jobs. These are not dead end jobs at all. I looked at all those pictures that you have. Somebody could start off as a welder and then eventually be a project manager, superintendent, own the company, and so these opportunities just open doors all over the place. And so very smart with Tallahassee. I'm excited about that too. Again, this is weirdly, I feel like COVID is starting to push almost best practices on how to get the word out and sort of unify the message on come join us. Are you breathing? It's so much fun. Now, I was definitely part of the generation of, if I don't go to college, I'll never be successful. I didn't listen. I still don't have any college credits, which sometimes I'm like, they let me on lunch with important people like you. Oh, it's pretty awesome. This is great. But, there's been a steady decline since the 1960s in the number of students who have been interested in this. But perhaps I think for the first time in a long time, we're starting to see respect come back, which is awesome. People are understanding what essential means. It is the person who works on your car. It is the healthcare industry. So finding new is kind of bridging that gap. And what is, we talk about introducing it to students, but do you have information for parents on that site as well? Because I'm starting, and I have for a long time understood that parents feel that if they don't encourage their students to go to college or a four-year university of some sort, that they're going to set their child up for failure, that
Right.
there's going to be they're going to be living in their basement forever and not make much of themselves. So do you have information on the website for parents?
Yeah, it is embedded within, it was built from the standpoint of being both a parent conversion tool as well as a student awareness tool, because you're exactly right. Parents are making those decisions. But Kayleen, I would tell you the other thing that is driving this conversation more than any information we could put out is the student loan debt that students and parents are carrying across this nation. It's $1.6 trillion. And with COVID and the number of students that have stepped out of going on to post-secondary experience, we've got a large number of individuals out there that are rethinking that return on investment. The other place then that I would help them have that conversation is to go to College Scorecard on the Department of Education's website. So College Scorecard at ed.gov. And it takes each institution, not just as an institution, but down to the program of study level. So you can compare, if I go to one of the community colleges in Georgia and enter into their construction program, ultimately, it'll show, number one, how much debt you'll accrue in going through that training experience, but then also what your first year earnings are coming out of it. And when we start comparing at that level, that degree looks much better than a four-year liberal arts degree or a philosophy degree. I tell you, we start to get on an even playing field. And the nice part is we made this information available publicly to Google and Amazon and all the rest of the web developers in the world. So Google Maps now shows colleges and universities by their degrees as opposed to just by the institution. So that's the information parents should see.
Wow, that is fantastic information. It's so valuable because I don't want to knock college. You know, I work with amazing architects and engineers who
It's
are
about
better
picking the right
because they work on
degree.
a job site. Yes, you know, we need a balance. There is everything, but you're right. And I heard recently or a while back when the 1.6 trillion number came out, the percentage of grandparents holding college debt is also a very high percentage. And it's stunning when you think about it. And so breaking down that financial investment, that is, I want to high five you. Thank you, DOE, for providing that because it's dispelling the myth. And, you know, we make great money in this industry. It is absolutely off the charts. Now, you know, that information from the DOE is fantastic, but then going back to kind of your partnerships with your other groups, you had mentioned a few companies came in to help participate with kind of building this website. Have any Georgia companies signed the pledge?
Oh, absolutely. We did a quick look over the past week, and total 461 companies, and have pledged 16 million and 400,000, give or take a few, new learning opportunities, and to really advance learners' access across this country to expanding their skills to get them to advance within those organizations. Georgia companies, AmeriFiber, Yamaha Motor Manufacturing Corporation, Home Depot, Randstad North America, and TSYS. So absolutely, there are Georgia companies represented in there that are going to be doing great things for expanding learners' capacity.
So hang on, I hate to throw you a curveball, but just pretend I'm in high school and I'm seeing this and I'm a fan, like, wow, this is amazing information. Can I follow a path on your website to get connected with these employers for job opportunities? Is this the best resource to go to? And if so, can you repeat that website name again, please?
Yes, so the findsomethingnew.org, sponsored by the Ad Council, and absolutely, once you drill down into one of those career pathways, it will help connect you locally to the education you need to get to that next step.
I'm so excited. You have no idea. I've been trying to put together a resource like this, but a one-man, or one lady host coming out of the TV industry doing some construction, I didn't quite have the resources, but this is going to be shared. I'm so excited because we have to dispel the myth, and part of that is showing the truth and what's out there and the actual opportunities and the earning potential. And it's like, oh, okay, that's how it's done. So I understand why having a skilled workforce is so important post-COVID. But I don't think, I want to talk to a lot of students, but also I talk to a lot of veterans and adults. So how is the Department of Education reinventing adult education and engagement into this industry?
Wonderful. Well, first and foremost, it goes back to our earlier conversation that, in my belief, yes, we've used the word essential in many different ways over the past 8 months, and we've heard it used in many different ways. But ultimately, I believe skills are essential. And there's going to be a shift in the labor force. But I'll tell you, even during COVID, I've not seen, as I've been here in DC, a change in the number of cranes that are actively moving and operating. Construction industry has not shut down. In fact, you might be hearing some sounds because the floor below us is being remodeled for us to move down there at some point in the future. And it's work as usual moving forward. But as we move into that next step, we've got to connect adult ed to career pathways. So our English language learners, our learners with low literacy and numeracy skills, what we've been investing in is connecting those programs so that they're not just academically focused, but like you mentioned earlier, we're building into that what's called integrated education and training, where they're getting specific skills in the industry that they're learning. So their language skills would be developed around the construction industry and what words and key phrases would be needed there. They're looking at math related to specific computer science or computer applications pathways. So that integrated training, we've expanded it from the first year at about 20,000 individuals to where we're hitting close to 70,000 individuals that are getting both the language and math skills at the same time. They're tying them directly to industry approaches. So we're excited about that next step.
That's absolutely fantastic. And personally, I think math is its own language, so we should promote it as such, but I can understand seeing the value of understanding concepts while actually applying them, which we should do with a lot more math students too in middle school and high school. So another issue that COVID has really brought to the forefront is need for a strong Wi-Fi in education. And there's been an issue, especially in rural Georgia, and I know Colorado, there are definitely parts that are rural to mountain areas, don't always have great service. In fact, there was a recent report out of Governor's Kemp office that shows over 500,000 locations in Georgia don't have internet, and 70% of those locations are in Georgia. And am I reading that right? I'm sorry to break down the fourth wall. I don't have, hang on, let me put on my reading glasses. That's outrageous. So, but with it being so high, can you then tell us about the Rural Tech Project?
You bet. And we're excited, launched it in the summer of 2020, $600,000 challenge to advance technology education and access to high quality CTE pathways that don't exist in some communities because of the barriers that you're talking about. They may not have broadband access. And what that limits is then instructional capacity in the in-demand CTE areas of construction, of manufacturing, of healthcare, and cybersecurity and other IT functions. And what we asked schools to do was to dream with us and say, yeah, we know where you are right now. Where do you want to be? And how can we get a construction manager in Atlanta, or someone with tremendous, a journeyman that could be an instructor for one of these rural areas to get students excited and interested in career areas that they don't have a teacher or a way to provide that right now. And that will require some extra infrastructure to be in place to move them forward. But ultimately, we've got 5 sites. Hate to say there isn't one from Georgia this time around, but we're going to use these 5 sites to drive innovation for all of these communities. And everybody can keep a look at what's going on with the ruraltechproject.com website to kind of see examples of how other local communities that are like your rural communities are finding new ways to offer pathways to students.
Oh, that's incredibly valuable. And what a nice way to leverage, being able to connect who we can, where we can, and also introduce students to these opportunities, because being stuck at home, I applaud what the students have to deal with right now. I applaud them. I don't sit well. This amount of technology, I like power tools way more. So it's really impressive to be able to still connect them. And, we were going to be joined by Shelly Travis, who is the Skills USA Executive Director. And I'm a giant fan of Skills USA as well, because it sounds like really the messaging that the Department of Education and Skills, it's partnering and it's blending well together, because it's not just the hands-on skills, it's the leadership, it's the communication portion outside of that. But she is very busy keeping things up and rolling, as I'm sure you are. So Scott, thank you. Scott Shelar, thank you again for joining us at the end. Scott Shelar, what did you think about the interview today?
Well, he got me right away when you mentioned Mike Koenig from Holder Construction. Mike is a huge proponent of career and tech ed. We're so thankful to have him here in Georgia. I mean, he's right here in Atlanta. He and I have become great friends over the last several years. And so he's just such a good thinker, Mike Koenig, on this whole issue of how do we get more people to think about a career in construction. And I'm happy to hear that he's having an impact on a national level as well. So that got my attention right away. But then also, I was intrigued by the whole idea of getting kids working as early as possible, because I think back on my own career and the different jobs I've had and how much I've learned just from working, right? Everybody assumes that learning only takes place when you're sitting in a classroom or you're in a lab, you're in a controlled environment, but so much learning happens when you're working. The example I like to give is when I was in college at Georgia Southern, I was studying communications, but I was also a newspaper writer at the Statesboro Herald. I was a full-time newspaper writer during college at a daily newspaper. And I learned more working at the daily newspaper than I learned in that communications program at Georgia Southern. And that's not anything against, Georgia Southern or colleges and universities, but there's just so much to be learned on the job, I think. As long as you have good mentors and everything in place, there's so much, not only about the topic at hand, but just about working with people and meeting deadlines and all of the other things that are really important beyond just learning the subject matter. So those were the 2 things that really grabbed me today, Scott.
I am very excited that you shared those resources, Scott, because it's true. I look back to on my work experience and it's been all over the place. And you take bits of each of your jobs and then eventually it turns out that's what you do when you grow up. Sometimes it's not quite planned. And it's awesome to get to show those opportunities, highlighting through construction. I did not know that learning how to work on cars and swing a hammer would actually get me a television show and then chance to hang out with friends on Tuesday. It's great. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Scott, but since Shelly isn't here, are you folks working together on any projects with Skills USA? Is there anything going on there?
Well, so all of the career and tech student organizations, of which Skills USA is one, others, DECA, FBLA, FFA, all of them are critical to the success of career and technical education programs locally. So yes, we do meet frequently and keep each other up to date on activities and advance the work together to make sure that our states and our local programs, which are really the ones driving the key components of the ship to change students' capacity for knowledge and skills, succeed. So.
Excellent. Oh, good. All the friends are coming together at the table to hang out. I love it very much. Scott, thank you again for taking the time to join us when you're in Colorado again. Square State, say, hey, I look forward to catching up in person. And for our fans hanging out, thank you again. Next week, we're going to be joined by Brandy Beavers from DeKalb Community or County Schools. Am I pronouncing that right, Scott?
Yeah, DeKalb County, yes.
DeKalb County. My Colorado accent doesn't quite translate sometimes. So I'm excited because we're going to be talking to her about what to get ready while you're still in high school. And then for anybody who has any questions, always feel free to text Career Path to 31996. So Scott, it was wonderful to chat with you gentlemen today for lunch. I hope you have a great week and a very good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Nice meeting you.